today's pre-inquest hearing was an opportunity for the counsel to the inquest, Hugh Davies, to report back to the Deputy Assistant Coroner on the details that have been established from looking at UK government material, secret material, presumably accumulated by MI5, MI6 and Scotland Yard, which the government said that they were willing to make available and which has been examined in the first instance at the request of the coroner by the counsel to the inquest. He went through a list of the potential suspects that are constantly bandied around, both in the media and among those who are involved in the case. And in each of those cases, ranging from Spanish mafia to Chechen gangsters to Boris Berezovsky, he said that the evidence, the government material, did not show their involvement. But in the case of the Russian state, he did say that there was a prima facie case of their culpability in the death of Mr. Litvinenko.
Can you explain what prima facie case means here?
Yeah, prima facie is simply a legal term that just means at first sight. So it clearly will be investigated much more thoroughly when the full inquest comes to be heard, and the coroner set a date for 1st of May for that to begin. But what it means is that having examined what is held by the British government, Mr. Davies suggests that the inquest will be most interested in the material that relates to the Russian state.
And this is secret material, so it's only been released to Hugh Davies, I presume?
No, it's held by the government, and the coroner, in the first instance, said that the material should be examined, and his inclination was to have as much material as possible in the public domain. But the government's response was that they would make as much material available as they had, and that later on they would reserve their position as to what or they did or did not object to having in the public domain later on. So representatives working for the coroner have been looking at that material, which is held by the government and the security services, but it is not yet in the public domain. And we don't yet know how much of it will be.
So will the Russian government have the chance to put its own case at the actual inquest when it happens?
Presumably yes, because we heard today that the investigative committee has made an application to the coroner to become an interested party in the inquest, and we haven't yet heard the coroner's decision on that. But if he does grant that request, then the Russian state would be represented as an interested party and would have the same rights as other interested parties to examine evidence and cross-examine witnesses.
There was other revelations in this pre-inquest hearing today. Litvinenko himself was a MI6 agent, it's come out.
Yes, I mean, Andrei Lugovoy, the man who Britain accuses of killing Mr. Litvinenko, has long alleged that Mr. Litvinenko was an MI6 agent and had tried to recruit him. And Ben Emerson, QC, for Mr. Litvinenko's widow, did say today that Mr. Litvinenko had in fact been a paid employee of MI6, had his own personal handler, a man he named as Martin, and was also being paid in fact by the Spanish security services at the request of MI6 because he was helping prosecutors there who were investigating the Russian mafia. And
you yourself were a correspondent for the Times in Moscow. What do you think the Russian reaction will be to today's revelations?
Well, I was there when the Litvinenko case began and until 2 months ago, and clearly it had a very big impact on Anglo-Russian relations, which really plunged into the freezer immediately afterwards and stayed there for some years. The British government and the Russian government had been attempting to rebuild bridges in the last 18 months or so, and I think what this will do today is put those relations back under strain. It demonstrates that the Litvinenko affair is not resolved, and there may be much material coming out of this inquest that will discomfort and maybe embarrass the Russian state.